Well, this year, this cycle, 4-year cycle, our council candidates are people in a hurry. They've got things to say. Sitting councillors, incumbent, are ready to go, they're gung-ho, they've got things to say, but less so than the challengers who are coming at them. In my opinion, everyone that gets elected this year will be someone who had a thing to say. They had something to sell, something to tell people we're going to do this thing.
Hello London, I'm Matt Brown and you're listening to the Matt Brown Podcast. It's a show about all things local and maybe some other stuff too. At the beginning of May, nominations for the municipal election opened, and now close to 30 campaigns for seats around the council horseshoe are underway. Our regular contributor, journalist Mike Donachie, is joining us to give us an update about what's happening in these early days of London's municipal election. I'm going to tell you all about it right after this.
Discover London Bicycle Cafe. It's the perfect time of year to take a break on their spacious patio, featuring craft beer, espresso drinks, snacks, meals, and more. London Bicycle Cafe at the Forks of the Thames. See you soon.
On May 1st, when City Hall opened their election office, almost 24 Londoners lined up, some for hours, to file what's called their nomination papers. What does that mean? Essentially, this is the final step that a Londoner must take before officially becoming a candidate in the election. There's some legwork involved leading up to this step, including a requirement to collect 25 signatures of other Londoners who are nominating them to stand for office. The candidate must also provide additional information within this paperwork to demonstrate that they're eligible to run in the election. So they stand in line, they submit their forms, they pay a fee, $100 to run as a ward councillor and $200 to run for mayor, and they're off. With over 20 candidates filing to run for office on day one and a total of 27 at the recording of this episode, things are happening. What does all of this activity and the number of candidates coming forward in these early days mean? Well, Mike Donachie is here to tell us all about it. So let's go. Mike, it's great to have you back.
Thank you. Always good to talk about local government.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, and let's jump right in. You parked yourself down at City Hall on May 1st, the day that the nominations opened. Tell us about that.
Well, this year, this cycle, 4-year cycle, our council candidates are people in a hurry. They've got things to say. There was a rush, an avalanche of them, and they all gathered. Within the first 2 days of registrations, we had something like 27, 28 people all showing up in one way or another for the various races. There are people with things to say. Okay, and then let's stay on that. How would you compare the way this nomination period launched to others that you've covered? So it's a really good question. I've been thinking about that. I never did draw a graph of how quickly people have filed, because it's not a thing. I mean, we could go through all the papers and track dates, but I will say that as a sense of things, what usually happens is you get a lot of incumbents making a statement by filing on the day, and you get a few others also saying, hello, it's me, I'm here and I'm serious by doing the same thing. My sense is you don't usually get 28, 30 of them all showing up together. They were lining up round the lobby, standing together. Yeah, I actually stopped by on my lunch just to see what was going on, and I don't think I've ever seen a lineup like that. Can you tell me about the mood of candidates? Yeah, it's a funny thing because it's a great leveler. So this time something interesting happened, and I don't mean this as a criticism of anyone, so don't think it that way, but the line went really slowly. People were being methodical in processing paperwork behind the desk, the staff there. And it was really interesting to see the effect on all the candidates who suddenly discovered they were going to have to spend quite some time standing together in a public place with photographers and having to behave well. Now they do, they're humans. But it was a leveler. It was interesting to see little bits of discomfort here or there as they figured it out. No, I get that. And I often say that, when you're a city member of council, you don't own the seat, you rent it, and you're leveled right back down to candidate when you go for filing your nomination papers. Can you tell me a bit about what people were telling you, what candidates, new and old, were telling you about how they were feeling about the day? Well, they were all excited to get going. I think sitting councillors, incumbents, are ready to go, they're gung-ho, they've got things to say, but less so than the challengers who are coming at them, who are telling them, hey, it's payday, hey, it's time to pay the piper, time to justify your existence, what have you done? And so I'm sensing through an awful lot of these conversations, I need to get ducks in a row to understand the conversation we're happening this year. And that's not there. But I do know that there are people with all sorts of things to say.
And these really are the early days. I mean, we've got almost 6 months to go before Election Day.
Yeah, and there are conventions here. It's early May. If you're a serious City Hall candidate, you should have that fairly well developed by now. Also, there are people who haven't filed that we would have expected to have filed by now that are still getting paperwork together and so on. And so, yes, and also, it's an interesting time. I think we're about to see some very, very serious candidates coming in as challengers. I've already seen today alone 3, 4 really well-developed websites, things with themes running through them. We're going to hear fiscal responsibility a lot this year, where people feel that the money has not been well spent. So that sort of thing, that's bubbling up.
Right, and off the top I mentioned that there were 27 folks who were running for a council seat in one way or another, and you just mentioned that at the time of this show being taped, we have not seen Susan Stevenson come forward as a candidate. We have not seen Anna Hopkins come forward. That's the Ward 4 and the Ward 11 city members. They both indicated that they intend to run in the election, so it'll be interesting to see, and folks watching from home might know more than we do. Let's stay on those wards right now, not specifically 4 and 11, but all of the wards. Which are the ones to watch? Let's break that down a little bit.
Oh, I've already got 3 or 4 favourites. I'm really enjoying watching what's happening in Ward 1. Now, Ward 1 has changed. And if you look at the reporting, you'll find that the incumbent councillor there, Hadley McAllister, was not happy with the changes. He made some difficult remarks, some negative remarks about the boundary changes coming through. He's now having to fight as an incumbent, defend a ward that he didn't actually represent to some extent, because that ward, Ward 1, now has Old East Village. And he has a very strong challenger in Roger Caranci, a gentleman of your acquaintance, I seem to recall from past campaigns as well. Roger's a really strong campaigner. He's got a good handshake. It's hard to go up against somebody like that. So Ward 1 is interesting.
I think that's maybe the biggest change in terms of ward boundaries. Susan Stevenson was the Ward 4 councillor, continues to be until Election Day, and a big part of that ward, at least from a media perspective, is Old East Village. And as you said, that has moved from 4 over to 1. And Roger Caranci, he is an East Londoner through and through, and I think that that will be a pretty interesting campaign to watch over the course of the next little while, particularly where Susan Stevenson decides to throw her hat in the ring. What about some other wards that you're watching?
Well, Roger's a good example, and Susan as well. Just to finish
Sure.
that thought though, Matt, you have to have something to say. For me, the first rule of communications is, what do you have to say? Because if you're saying something that you really mean, you really care about, then it lands with a lot of impact. And we're seeing that in challengers like Caranci. He's coming in with something to say. And in my opinion, everyone that gets elected this year will be someone who had a thing to say. They had something to sell, something to tell people we're going to do this thing. And Susan Stevenson's an interesting one. She has built a base well beyond Ward 4. So of all the councillors dealing with these boundary changes, arguably she's the least troubled by that, because she's got a really strong political base. I can talk for hours about this, maybe we'll do it over a beer instead, but I also have this theory that we miss the class piece of it as well. Especially in places like Ward 4, where you look at people like Stephen Orser, who's running again this time.
That's right.
Orser's back. When you look at people like that and they've gone through on very much a blue-collar vote, that's different from right versus left. Sometimes that transcends that type of thing. That's what Susan Stevenson's been doing in building a base. So if it is Ward 4, great. If it's somewhere else or the wider city, also great. It's just a question of how much you can scale that up. Really.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Some might say that Susan Stevenson has a citywide profile. It's very often a sitting member of council is well known by the ward that they represent, but maybe they don't have name recognition across the city. Just a couple of days ago, I saw Susan touring a site in North London, I believe it would be Ward 5, where there were some development issues that were rearing their head in a residential area where there's going to be some intensification. Now, Susan does sit on the planning committee presently, and so she was probably there wearing that hat. But lots of people wonder, I wonder if she's even looking in that direction.
Yeah, we've seen a bit of movement here or there, especially with the boundaries moving. If you look at Ward 7 and 5, Ward 7, your old ward, Ward 7 I keep calling the ward that produces the mayors. So everyone was looking at Corinne Raman there. Now, the boundary moved on Corinne, And now she lives in Ward 5. So she's running in Ward 5, where conveniently Jerry Pribbles decided not to run. So we have a not quite incumbent, but a nearly incumbent in that area. There's a lot of that, that's a unique case, but there's a lot of that sort of thing. Issues that cross boundaries. Frankly, Matt, I think that's healthy. Who cares if you're in Ward 5 or Ward 4 or Ward 12? The point is we're in a city together and we've got issue, homelessness, cost of living, housing, transport, all these things that are all over the city. These councils should become, forgive me, I'm a geek, these councils should be coming together and forming Voltron to fix that. They should not be talking about what Ward 5 needs and what Ward 4 needs, but
yeah, no, I completely understand that, and these ward boundaries have changed largely based on population density. Ward 7, which is northwest London, was the fastest growing area in London for about a decade, and Corinne Rahman, the sitting councillor, represents just over 40,000 people there, while some other wards may only have 20 to 25,000. So this rebalancing makes a lot of sense, and there have been some big names that have come out for Ward 7 at this point. Can you think of one that stands out?
Yeah, we'll talk about Jonathan Sher in a minute, but and also think about those numbers. When you look at this many, 500,000 people, and this much turnout per ward and so on, some of these wards have got turnouts of 20 to 21%. 150 votes changing can swing them. They're very different. Ward 7 is really interesting again because we have Jonathan Sher, former reporter for the London Free Press, former City Hall reporter, really knows his way around it. Very, very clever man. And he's come to Ward 7, the place where quite a lot of well-educated, affluent people live. It's a really useful commuting area down at Western University. I'm a former Ward 7 resident, and it's a beautiful spot. Jonathan Sher has a story to tell those people about cost of living and about affordability and about public services, and he's already doing it very, very strongly. He's a storyteller naturally, and he's come out the gate really fast there in Ward 7.
Okay, one to watch. One to watch. And you mentioned some numbers, and in some wards, certainly, voter turnout is much higher than in others, and there can be a lot of close calls. But really, overall, in the 2022 municipal election, I think it was a low watermark. Just under 25% of eligible voters in London voted. Now, to put that into context, I don't think we've ever been higher in recent history than pushing about 50%, but it was significantly lower than we would see in a trend. Do you think that that's part of the story here too as we look forward?
Yeah. People are feeling frustrated. There is a sense of powerlessness. I mean, it's not really about politics. You talk about the world generally, we're all going to sigh about it, we're all faintly irritated all day. And that's seeping into municipal politics because no one cares what flavour of taxes it is. Nobody cares about all that stuff you learned in civics. It doesn't really matter. What people see is a problem and they say, well, we've elected people, something should be done. And there's a big sense of that this time. It will be very interesting to see those numbers. I'm ready to predict they're going to be higher. And I think also about what happens when you give people an opportunity to exercise their franchise in a meaningful way. I'll tell you a very quick story. In Scotland, we had an independence referendum. We allowed everyone in Scotland, not me because I didn't live there at the time, but we allowed everyone in Scotland to vote in this referendum, including we extended it to 16 and 17-year-olds. The whole country felt that they had something to decide, that as if their vote mattered. The turnout was 84.7%.
And I think that says it. And
give them a question they know has an effect and they will show up. People are figuring that out. I think this year people are going to show up.
Yeah, and I wonder, I have to wonder if the momentum that you saw early in this first week of the campaign, particularly on the first day, if that demonstrates what's going to happen between now and the culmination of this process, Election Day. We didn't have time today to talk about the mayoral race, the citywide race, and I think that's okay. I'm sure we're going to get together and have longer conversations about that.
Later is better for that. We're waiting for the other shoe to drop there. There are some candidates. I don't think that story's done. We'll see who else is going to come out the woodwork.
Well, then we'll have to stay tuned for that. I want to give you the final minute to share your thoughts. You've been watching this really closely. What should we be looking for, let's say, between now and the end of June?
We should be looking for information that leads us to an intelligent way to use our vote. People have a duty to do this well. They should stop paying attention to anger on social media, pay attention to the issues, listen and understand. And if they feel disaffected, forgive me for being lectury a wee bit here, if they feel disaffected, that's their problem. The situation is what it is. We are still where we are. We still need to make good decisions and run our city well. $1.4 billion a year runs through City Hall, and we give it to 15 people to decide what they're going to do about it. I don't know about your experience, Matt, but I think we've had mixed success there. And I think we should probably be voting accordingly. People need to look at the issues, understand whether your councillor did a good job, understand who's coming in, and make a choice based on some intelligence and some good information, please.
I can't think of a better place to leave it. If people want to learn more about this, they can visit the City of London website, london.ca. I'm afraid that we're out of time this time, Mike. We'll have you back on to talk about that citywide race, and we're going to have to take a break.
Discover London Bicycle Cafe, home of family cargo and urban cycling. Test ride an e-bike along riverside trails to see how easy moving through our city can really be. London Bicycle Cafe at the Forks of the Thames. See you soon.
And that's the show. As always, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you know a little bit more about what's going on down at City Hall these days than you did before tuning in. It's often said that a week in politics can be a lifetime. And this past week is no exception to that rule. Mike and I talked about Susan Stevenson and where she might end up running. As you probably know, earlier this week, Susan announced that she's not running for Ward 1, Ward 4, or any other ward. She's running for mayor. And that means this election just got a whole lot more exciting. Kirsten Kroos, Josh Morgan, Susan Stevenson, John Faher, and Lawrence Zachary Howe are all running for mayor. We didn't get a chance to talk about this on today's episode, but I guarantee that we will very soon. Thanks to Mike for joining us today. You can catch his regular articles on Substack. Just search Mike Donachie, City Hall Notes. Also, thank you for listening too. Like I always say, this show is for you. In fact, we couldn't do it without you. So please, keep in touch. You can write to the Matt Brown Podcast at gmail.com. Tell us what you think. Maybe tell us about what you'd like us to cover in a future episode. Or maybe you want to pitch an episode that you could be a part of. A big thank you to everyone who's already doing so, too. And that's that. I'm Matt Brown, and this is the Matt Brown Podcast. It's the show about all things local, and maybe some other stuff, too. As always, thanks for listening. Bye for now, and talk to you again soon. London.